Hello, everyone. Welcome back to season 3 of the Conscious Kitchen podcast. We've been so happy to see all the feedback on our first episodes. Keep those reviews coming. Today, our special guest is sharing with us her path to overcoming an eating disorder. There is a commonly held misconception that eating disorders are a lifestyle choice. Eating disorders are actually serious and often fatal illnesses that are associated with disturbances in people's eating behavior and related thoughts and emotions. Eating disorders are complex and include anorexia, bulimia, and binge eating. This year, we've all gone through so much, and our mental health has been pushed to the limit. Those struggling with eating disorders have had an even more difficult time, with calls to overeat during quarantine and the shame of stress eating being a public force on social media. People with eating disorders have been left sometimes alone with their demons. Scientists have found that since the start of the pandemic, many people with anorexia have become more restricted, and many with binge eating disorders or bulimia have had more binging episodes. Experts say 20 million women and 10 million men living in the United States will have an eating disorder at some point in their life. It's for this reason that we invited Jasmine, also known as Sweet Simple Vegan, here to chat with us. Jasmine runs a platform where she shares her passion for living vegan. She formulates recipes, she shoots lifestyle content, and is truly an inspiration for anyone going plant-based. Jasmine is open to her struggles with an eating disorder, and she has a community that appreciates her honesty and path. Overall, Jasmine is a ray of sunshine, and if you don't know her yet, you will after this episode. I met Jasmine when I first moved to LA, and we went on a double date with our boyfriends who are both named Chris. I've admired her since, and it's an honor to have her here with us today to talk to us about such an important topic. Thank you, Jasmine, for being open to sharing your story with our listeners.
What's up, girl? Welcome to the
Thank you
Conscious
for
Kitchen
having me.
podcast.
I'm excited for this. I'm a little nervous, but mostly excited.
No, don't be nervous. We can edit it all.
No nervousness. Yeah. And and you're just here to share your story, and we're all interested in just learning more and learning how to be more compassionate to those that struggle with eating disorders in general. Yes. So Jasmine, so you have a big, loyal, amazing community that you've developed through Instagram, but also through your blog, Sweet Simple Mom. You've opened up to them about your past eating disorders, and it's different from your other type of content. When you share that type of content with them, what's the feedback like? Do you get a lot of women and men telling you they struggle with similar experiences, or what has been the general feedback?
Actually, yeah, I was really surprised by how many people reached out and kind of thanked me for sharing my story. When I first shared it, it was kind of just, I was kind of just pushing myself to share my story, to just share who I was more so with my audience and with my friends and family, and just share that part of my life. But I didn't really expect so many people to come to me and say, hey, I struggled with this too. Thank you so much for sharing this. It made it much more apparent that so many people were struggling with what I was struggling with. And it actually was much more helpful for me sharing my story, because it just gave me the confidence to push through and to help work on myself and improve my health. And overall, it was a positive experience.
That's great. Yeah, I think that's so helpful to be able to sharing your story is one of the biggest steps of recovery, right?
Totally. Yeah, that was the hardest thing for me to do. My friends and family knew to a degree what was going on, but I never outwardly said it until I published it online. For some reason, It was easier for me to do it like that as opposed to talking to them face to face. And It was very helpful with my personal relationships and sharing that part of me. And it was also just helpful to bring awareness to eating disorders, because you never know sometimes if someone's struggling with an eating disorder. People have the impression that they have to look a certain way, that they have to act a certain way, come from a specific background, but anybody can struggle. And yeah, sometimes you never even know.
Yeah.
So true.
How old were you when you were dealing with this?
I was 18. It was my first year of college.
Mm-hmm. And tell us like the path to accepting that you had an eating disorder and just understanding it and discovering that yourself in that time.
I also had the misconception that eating disorders fell to a certain demographic, to a certain look and situation, I guess. And so when I was in the midst of my eating disorder, I never looked at it as an eating disorder. I was to myself, I was very concerned with being healthy, very concerned with improving my fitness and just like staying on top of every aspect of my life in college. And I thought that I was doing a good thing for myself. I thought that I was improving my life in some way, but I wasn't really aware of how much of a negative impact those things can have on you if you do too much of them. And so it took me a while to realize what was going on, but I think that there was two things that really opened my eyes to it, I guess. The first thing was my social life. I went from hanging out with my friends all the time, going out, going to parties, going to lunch together and that sort of thing, to kind of never seeing anybody because I was so strict on my schedule every day, not even just with school and with working out, but with like my food and my habits, my eating habits. And when I saw my mom, that was an eye-opener because I could just see in her eyes that something was wrong. And that is really what kind of solidified my awareness of my eating disorder.
Oh, it's like, so she saw that you look significantly different.
Yeah, she was just like, wow, you were so skinny. Like, what is going on?
Is your mom American or is she Filipino?
Yeah, she's Filipino American, yeah.
So yeah, that must be hard because, I mean, growing up in a Filipino background or household,
Definitely.
we're very verbal, like even like aunts or uncles or, grandparents are always like, oh, eat, or like, oh, like first thing they'll say, oh, you look fat, or like, oh, you look too skinny, you need to eat. So
totally.
yeah. So I'm like, that's part of our culture. And that's like the Filipino, like love language, I think, is to eat, is that's how we share our love. So it's like, if she sees that something's wrong with you, with your weight or something, that's like probably the first thing she got flagged for her, right?
Totally, yeah. Actually, speaking of that, in the Filipino culture, I never really looked at it as anything but just normal because that's what I grew up with. And yeah, like you're saying, all my aunts and uncles, they just make comments like, oh, wow, Min, you're looking fat or you're looking too skinny, eat. And it was just like, okay, whatever, kind of normal to me. But I don't know specifically like the specifics of what fed into my eating disorder, but I definitely think that was something that contributed to the mindset that I had.
For sure. I mean, I think over time, I don't understand. I think that we need to work on breaking that down for like our family, because even in the Latino culture, it's like that too. Like they're always like, oh, estás tan gordita, like you're so skinny, you're so chubby. And it's like, it's every day, even still they do it. So I'm always like telling them, like, listen, you need to stop saying that to people. Like, you don't know what's going on with them. It's not polite to do that.
I think nowadays we're more in tune with how to approach people, but back then, it was it's all about looks and, picking and prodding at people,
Definitely, yeah.
Yes, but even with our kids, right? With our kids, they might do the same thing, So it's like, it's important to try to break down like those stigmas or being okay with them saying those types of things.
Yeah. And
so what's
go for it.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Speaking of stigmas, I just wanted to say that even in my family, in terms of mental health, that wasn't something that was discussed often or even ever. So when I brought up my eating disorder and when it was relevant in my life at that age, I feel like my family wasn't fully aware of what was going on because their minds weren't open to how much an eating disorder can affect someone's mental health and how things like therapy could be really beneficial to me and people who are struggling with similar things, and how taboo our perspective of we had the perspective, or I grew up with the perspective, that therapy and mental health was kind of taboo. And I think that was also what made me have the perspective that I had of my eating disorder. And that's why it took me so long to see it happening, because I was like, oh, I don't struggle with mental health. I don't have to go to therapy like that. I'm not the person that's going to need to do that, And it was just never, I just never thought it would be something that I personally would struggle with. So I think it's also important for people to share their stories so that they can bring awareness to that.
Yeah. How long were you dealing with your eating disorder?
I would say about 3 or 4 years. It was honestly, the recovery process was much longer for me than the actual, I guess, darkest days of my eating disorder.
Yeah, I don't really have much knowledge about like what the daily life of someone that has an eating disorder. Can you share with us like about like what normal routine for you is for having an eating disorder? Like what would it be?
Definitely. Before I continue talking, I don't know if you're going to share this at all, but I just wanted to share a trigger warning just in case anybody listening to this does struggle with an eating disorder. I don't know the specifics that I'm going to be talking about, but just in case, I know that things like this could be triggering.
Yes, thank you.
but in terms of my personal schedule, I guess it was, I had everything, every single second of my day planned. I remember, in terms of going to class, getting up and doing all like my normal, I guess, self-care daily routine, like washing my face and all that, everything was on a schedule. And it even came down to my food. I counted everything that I did. So I like wrote down all the food that I had. I had a calorie counting app, and I just remember I would like set a number for myself that I could hit. And then if not, like it was very hard for me mentally to accept eating over the limit that I set for myself and that sort of thing. So it was very mentally draining. And this is also why it had an impact on my social life, because I was so focused on improving myself. And I thought that I was doing this good thing of setting this schedule and becoming regimented and all of that. But yeah, it wasn't a great time in my life. Obviously, it was a very dark time, and it was a very lonely time. So I guess in terms of like my schedule, it was just a very regimented routine, and I would do the same thing every single day.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
And
And
at
what
that point, was there like a specific diet lifestyle that you were doing? Because I know, you know, for some people, it might be hard for them to accept that they have an eating disorder, because like you said, that they think they're going down a healthy route. So
Definitely,
they,
yeah.
yeah.
I was actually experimenting with a bunch of different diets, and ironically, this is how I found veganism, because I tried doing the Atkins diet, and I tried doing, I don't know, random things that I found online, and then I eventually stumbled across the raw vegan diet, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. Maybe I could do this to lose weight, to look like these people on YouTube, and that's kind of just how it started. And
Right.
I definitely had a negative relationship with veganism to begin with, but then eventually when I kind of refound veganism and I found more information on the ethics behind it, the benefits for our health and for the environment, I kind of flipped my perspective, and that's ultimately what helped me cure my eating disorder. So it's just very interesting.
Amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. So you started off basically as veganism was like a diet, then you went through your recovery and you came back to it as an ethical vegan.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And so how did it go with telling your parents, and what was their role in your recovery and your family?
My family played a huge role, even though I would say not everyone played an active role. It was, so when I struggled with my eating disorder, it was the first time that I had moved away from home. So I went to UC Davis, and it was the first time I'd ever been away from home. I grew up pretty sheltered, so I never slept over friends' houses. I always had a curfew, and
Oh,
like
wow.
I was very sheltered in that sense. So when I went to college, everything was I guess in my control. So I had no limits to a degree, but at the same time, I had no one kind of putting me in my place, no one making food for me, no one kind of like being my mom, you know? And
Yes.
I didn't realize how much work that was going to be physically and mentally for me. And I've always been a very driven person. I've always wanted to get straight A's in school and do my best in like everything that I do. So just the combination of all of that, I think really fed into the situation. And that's really ultimately what I think spiraled into my eating disorder. And so I eventually moved back to Los Angeles to recover, and I left UC Davis. I didn't really have a plan from there. I just enrolled in community college and kind of went from there. And I started going to therapy and figuring all that out. And it was just being around my family was honestly just what I needed. It was ultimately the thing that really helped me feel comfortable in the situation. And even though I didn't always talk to my friends and family about the situation directly, it was still nice to have their physical comfort there. And I remember when I first told my mom, she hadn't seen me yet. It was over the phone. And I was like, Mom, like, I think I have an eating disorder. I don't know like what's going on. And I just remember her opinion was like, oh no, you don't, like everything's fine. And I was like, oh, okay, whatever. Like I didn't really think anything of it. And then like I was saying before,
Filipinos like to graze over any type of serious conversation, whether it be abuse or a creepy uncle or, you know, anything like that. They're just down to just graze over it. You know, it's so weird.
Totally. Yeah. It was a very casual conversation. And I remember I like building up to it. I was so nervous to talk about it with her.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was just kind of brushed away. And so, like I was saying earlier, when I saw her in person physically, that's when she realized something was wrong. So my mom really played a role in just kind of putting into perspective or kind of bringing to light what was going on for me. Just seeing that look in her face was kind of what helped me
Thank God for
realize that I needed
moms.
help. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then in terms of telling my friends, like I was saying before, early on in this conversation, it was really hard for me to directly tell people what was going on. And there were a few close people that I kind of talked to about it with, but I just remember kind of not really sharing the severity of the situation and kind of playing it cool, I guess. But it was really when I shared it online that that was how it helped me share with my friends and family. And my advice for people going through what I went through and wanting to share it with those close to them. And if it's hard for them, you can just write it down. You don't have to publish it online like I did, but write it down, give a letter to your friends and family, and maybe share it that way, because it was easier for me not to have that direct conversation.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, because after you have that conversation, and there's so many follow-up questions, and
Exactly.
sometimes people don't know the right thing to say, and they end up saying something that's
Definitely.
really insensitive. So yeah. Now that you're here on this side of, now that you're on like the side of you're recovered, are there any things that I guess I'm sure that there's a list of things of what to say and what not to say, but what are some of the reactions or, you know, just advice that people should give someone that tells them that they're struggling with an eating disorder?
Um, just, I feel like some people feel forced, like some people feel obligated to share helpful information when they've never had an experience with it. So I just say, if you don't directly know what to say, there are a lot of amazing resources online. There are a lot of options for therapy online. Even BetterHelp is what I've been using through everything going on in the world. I've been doing therapy online instead. It's been really helpful. So something like that, I just feel like sharing resources in that sense would be very helpful. But and just being there to listen. Like, you don't even have to say anything sometimes. Just being there and listening is the best thing, because when I wanted to share with my friends and family, yeah, I just didn't want to deal with their responses and their reactions and that sort of thing. But if I could have just spoken to my mom and just had her listen with kind of nothing else coming back at me, I think that would have been a really great and comfortable situation and conversation.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So be a good listener.
Be a very good listener. Yeah. And
write it down. Write it down.
Yes.
Tell somebody. And there's amazing resources too. I love that. BetterHealth.com.
Yeah, BetterHelp.
Yeah, they have online psychiatric help. So check out BetterHealth.
Yeah. And so therapy was a big part of your recovery.
Yes.
Awesome. And do you still see a therapist now, just to continue to recover?
Not necessarily regarding my eating disorder, but it's always nice to have someone to talk to that's outside of my circle. That doesn't really have, I guess, a biased opinion and that sort of thing. I just really like to share and have someone listen to the same degree that I was just talking about.
Yes.
But when I went to therapy for my eating disorder, I don't know if this would be helpful for other people, but for me personally, I went to individual therapy at first, but then I actually started going to group therapy. And it was with all these different women that were at different stages of their eating disorder that were going through similar situations as me. And that's ultimately what helped me recover, because I saw how much an eating disorder can affect someone's life. There were women there that were in their 50s, 60s that were still struggling with eating disorders. So it kind of just was a wake-up call for me. And I was like, wow, I'm glad that I kind of am taking initiative. Not that they weren't, but I just had the perspective that I wanted to overcome this, because I didn't want it to follow me into my later days.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just nice to be able to share my experience with a group that maybe had already experienced what I was experiencing, and they offered firsthand advice that was very helpful.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It's great advice, babe. Somebody from that's going to be listening is going to learn from that. So thank you for sharing and unloading all that information. So thank you so much for sharing.
I really hope it can help.
Yeah, definitely it's
Yeah.
gonna help.
So during COVID, how has it been during COVID? Because, like we said, I was doing some research ahead of time, and scientists have been saying that those with eating disorders have really been struggling.
During COVID has been very interesting. I've had a lot more time to myself, obviously, as we all have. And
Hmm.
um, for me, it just staying busy has been very helpful, doing small things every day that's just kind of stepping away from my day-to-day life, whether it be like DIYing something or reorganizing my bathroom, that sort of thing. Kind of
Hmm.
just like bringing my mind somewhere else and just focusing on something, I guess, physical has been very helpful for me to just kind of not spiral into my mind and into a dark place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, that's
And
good.
also stay in contact with my friends and family digitally. I have multiple phone calls every day with friends and family, FaceTime chats with my mom. Like it's something I always look forward to. And it's been really good to have that contact, even though we're not with each other in person. It's
Yes.
definitely what has helped me stay grounded in all this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
shout out to the FaceTime and all the Zoom meetings.
Yeah,
So
Zoom.
true.
Yeah.
I know, it's so true.
So Jasmine, I wanted to ask you because you have a really big following on YouTube and your Instagram and everything that like creating content constantly as a creator could be difficult, right? Like even just just becoming like a self-starter and like finding new inspiration, editing and all that stuff. Like, is there anything that you don't like about your job and like how do you stay inspired through difficult times?
I think that the one thing that is difficult for me that I don't enjoy is like all the eyes that are on me and all of the opinions that people
Hmm.
have regarding my life. I share primarily food content, but people still have opinions about me physically and personally, and it's just really hard to take that in sometimes. And I do understand that everybody has a different perspective and
Right.
everybody has their own opinions, but I think because Chris and I are so personal on our social media platforms, on our YouTube channel, people feel like they are comfortable enough to give us all of this criticism. And I know sometimes people think it's helpful, and at times it is helpful when it's constructive criticism and that sort of thing. But to have people kind of nitpicking at a lot of things in my life that I didn't even realize what could be an
Yeah.
issue or concern is
Like
a little
what do they
frustrating.
say? Like what is it like? Oh, weird attitude or weird energy you guys have, or what I mean, what are they saying?
Yeah, or just like, why did you say it that way? Or like, I don't
Mhm.
know. People have commented
Anything.
on physical appearance. Yeah,
Yeah,
just like
yeah, yeah.
anything.
Like I'm not a
Um,
Kardashian, all right? I don't have like
They'll be like, "Oh my God, why does she give her dog so many treats all day?" Like,
yeah, exactly. Or like, why are you giving your dog that? Or why is your couch that color? It's
oh
ugly. Like
gosh.
that sort of
Yeah,
thing. Like,
yeah.
what is going on?
yeah.
Or who's
Yeah.
teaching you how to make a pumpkin curry? Like, I don't understand. So
Yeah.
that's the most frustrating part for me because I don't know. I'm very hard on myself sometimes, and just having all those opinions come at me. Sometimes I'm like, well, do they have a point there? Do I really need to sit down and maybe assess what I just said? Or is it just someone kind of just being overly critical, and kind of
Yeah.
figuring it out and balancing it there is difficult for me.
So how many followers you guys have on your YouTube channel now?
I think around like 140,000.
Wow. And how
It's
long does
been
it take you guys to grow?
crazy. We've been doing YouTube for about 4 or 5 years now
Wow.
consistently,
It's
but
amazing.
actually our following has really spiked during the pandemic for some reason. I guess people
Wow.
needed more
Amazing.
attention. Yeah. It's
Yeah, I
been,
think
Hell
people
yeah.
cooking. Everyone's cooking.
yeah.
Everyone's
Everyone's at
cooking,
home
yeah.
looking for like new recipes, and your recipes are so amazing
Thank
and easy
you.
to follow. So it's like they're a great resource.
Yeah.
Sweet and simple.
Yeah.
Sweet and simple. Yes.
Yeah. So I think with all that criticism, you've just had like this crazy tough skin now and kind of made you stronger and I'm sure relationships stronger and all that stuff, right?
Definitely. I mean, to a degree, I always like to say like I still struggle with things, and
Always.
I
Yeah.
really want to say that I have a thick skin when it comes to those things, but sometimes when it's just like constantly happening, it could still beat me down. It could still have an effect on me, but I'm learning and growing every day, and
Yeah.
that's the best I could do.
How have you and Chris dealt with burnout?
Well, I feel like that's a constant battle for us because
Hmm.
everything that we're doing, I feel like we get into a groove of things and we're like doing pretty well. And then things change and we have to kind of shift our habits and shift our content creation process just based on things that are going on in our personal life, things that are going on online, that sort of thing. So we're constantly moving, constantly changing, but I think that has been beneficial for us in terms of burnout, because I think if we did the same thing over and over again every single day, every single week, we would kind of go crazy. So I guess changing things up, short answer, is what has really helped us. And just experimenting and having fun. We always want to remind ourselves that we got into this because we enjoyed it, and it is our job now, and we don't want to get sucked into the monotony and the stress of it being work. So we still try to have fun.
Super important. Yeah, because that line is super thin when you think once what you have for fun becomes work, it kind of becomes like, oh man, do I really want to do this? But keeping it fun totally
Totally.
makes a difference.
Yeah, and then to a degree, we love what we do, so we're just constantly doing it. And sometimes we go down a black hole, we're working like 15 hours or something in a day, something crazy. And we're like, okay, we really need to stop. Like, even though we're enjoying what we're
Yeah.
doing, like we really need to take a break. So
Yeah.
also
That's
adding on to
important.
that, taking breaks, scheduling and breaks, not focusing on social media, not looking at work, and just disconnecting is extremely important.
Yeah. I've learned a lot of that since I moved here to Spain. Like we have a 3 hour lunch break from like 2 p.m. to like 5. And it's like so different from American culture because we just wake up at 8 and we grind nonstop until 8, 9, 10.
Mhm.
There's no break. Like, what's a break?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. What
So,
is a break? Why do we need a break?
yeah, so cool. So damn, you guys have a lot of followers and a lot of all that stuff. So where do you guys like see yourself with Simple Sweet Vegan like in 10 years from now with your partner?
Um, that's hard to, I don't know. It's hard to really say, because when I look back at the past 10 years, so much has happened in my life. And 10 years ago is when I actually started struggling with my eating disorder. So it's just kind of
Yeah.
crazy to look at it in that way and to see how much has changed and evolved in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm hoping we will have written a cookbook or two by the time 10 years
Yeah.
has passed. And I don't know if we'll still be doing what we're doing, but I hope that we will be, or at least doing something in the creative space, still sharing veganism in some way. I know social media can shift and change, and all of the trends can change and that sort of thing. So we'll
Mm-hmm.
definitely be moving and shifting with that. But I definitely still think we'll be working in the vegan space, and we'll definitely be doing something creative.
So cool.
The
Definitely,
best
for
answer I
sure.
got.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's so hard to really plan for the future in that way. You would have never thought 10 years ago that you'd be here, but it was some of those struggles that
Definitely,
even
yeah.
brought you here. So it's crazy to look back at life and be like, damn, life is so connected, but you can't understand it in those moments. But when you look back, it's like mind blowing.
Yeah.
Totally, yeah.
So
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, I mean, you know, creating content like for that special niche is like amazing. And, you know, people want to start YouTube channels and all that stuff, but it takes time. It takes so much work.
Definitely
People have no
so much
idea.
work. Yeah.
10 years you've been doing it.
No. I haven't been doing, well, close to it, but not fully 10
The
years.
journey,
Yeah,
your
right? Like,
journey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
yeah.
Sweet Simple Vegan started in 2012, right? If am I
I
correct?
think it was 2013.
Oh, 2013.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, so a long time. Yeah, you definitely
A
were an
while.
early adopter of everything social media and internet and super
Yeah.
super on it.
Unintentionally.
Unintentional,
Yeah.
I know, but that's
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, that's why you've made it, and that's why your community is so loyal to you, because you're doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you really like love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I like
So
how
around,
Jerry Seinfeld said, like, he's like, I've never worked a day in my life. Like,
yeah, lucky him.
yeah.
Oh my dang. Yeah, yeah. He never worked a day in life because he loves his job, right?
Hmm.
Yes, yes. Yeah. Shout out to everybody that's found that amazing quality in their work, you know? It's a struggle, but then you find it and you got it.
Hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
Uh, so around the time that this episode will be releasing, it will be close to the holidays. I mean, the holidays are here. This year just zoomed on through.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Can't
Crazy.
believe it. Yeah. So we're going into 2021 now. And yeah, so around how are the holidays for someone that struggles with an eating disorder? What kind of things did you experience? And like, is that time sometimes difficult for you?
Um, It isn't necessarily difficult for me now, but I think at the height of my eating disorder, that was the hardest thing for me, being social and yeah, being around food. The holidays are centered around food, and that was a really difficult thing for me because it was very ingrained in my routine, and my mindset was food, calories, what the heck is going on. And I know holidays are about just like enjoying yourself, not caring about what you're consuming, and just yeah, enjoying the indulgence and enjoying the comfort food. So that was
Yes.
hard for me mentally because I couldn't do that. I didn't know how to do that, and I didn't want to share that with my friends and family that I was struggling with that sort of thing and kind of ruin the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that looking back, I was so in my own, like, I was so in my own mind and like with myself. And sorry, let me go back.
Mm-hmm.
Looking back at when I was struggling with my eating disorder and going to holiday parties, I was very in my own mind and I felt very lonely in that sense. But my cousins, my mom, my family would have definitely been there to support me and to talk with about the situation. And I think if I was more open to them about what I was feeling in that very moment, I could have handled it in a different way. And it
Mm-hmm.
could have been a bit more comfortable for me because I kind of just felt like I was freaking out of my mind and no one knew what was going on. And it was just like, I was
Yeah.
melting into myself, you know?
Yeah.
Um, but I think if I had someone there to kind of like hold my hand and talk to, before going into the situation, it would have been helpful. And if someone doesn't have a family member or friend to do that with, a therapist even, to talk to someone about the situation and before going into it, I think would be very helpful. And another thing is I had so much anxiety leading up to the day. I like played it over and over again in my mind. And I like was constantly thinking about the food and all that. And when the day finally came, I was like super drained mentally. And um, I just felt horrible because of that, not even because of anything else, just because of all of the mental strain that I had experienced from thinking about the situation, overthinking the situation. And I know it's really hard because I don't know what other people are going through and I don't know exactly what their situation is like.
Right.
But I think that if I would have just been a little bit more gentle with myself in the situation and kind of took it step by step instead of jumping into the holidays and thinking that I could eat whatever I wanted and be okay. But then that was really hard for me mentally the day after, or even the night of. Kind of taking baby steps, I guess. I don't know if this is the best advice. I don't really know how to put it into words, but
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can only give us the advice that you've experienced, and I'm sure that this will resonate with someone because
Mm-hmm.
I hope so.
there's no rules. None of us know any of these things. It's
Yeah.
just we're just
Yeah.
figuring it out. Hearing you figure it out will help someone else figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So how are you now? Like, what's the difference between back then and how you handle the holidays now?
I would say that I am pretty much fully recovered from my eating disorder. So now the holidays aren't really a worry for me. It's, I guess, how it used to be back in the day.
Mhm.
Just enjoying my time with the friends and family, enjoying good food. So I would say now I'm much more laid back about the situation than I was back then.
Nice.
So usually, like for example, Filipino families, we have like a buffet style, meal. We just go
Three
in
days worth
on
of food.
like the lumpia. You go in and just you're not counting calories anymore.
Totally, yeah.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So like for example, a lot of Filipino families, we have a lot of meats, we have a lot of fatty food, really good savory sweets and stuff like that. Like for the holidays, how can we start incorporating more vegan recipes or plant-based recipes to our families? Like, do you have any tips on like preparations or recipes that you love?
I really love recreating familiar recipes just to get them interested because I feel like if I bring just like a straight up dish of vegetables, they're like, I'm not going to eat that. I'm going to go eat the quote unquote
Mhm.
good food over there. But if
Mhm.
I bring lumpia, I bring pancit and it looks exactly like the foods that they're familiar with, I feel like that kind of breaks a barrier for them. And they're already kind of interested in the food and they're like, it couldn't be that bad. And then they're more open to trying it. So I
Yes.
think if people create foods that their family and friends are familiar with and create a really yummy vegan version of it, I think it could really open their eyes to eating more plant-based foods.
Yes. Yeah, I love that tip. Do you ever what's your reaction to I'm sure that this doesn't happen anymore, but before, when you'd get like the hater families that they're like,
Oh
oh,
my
what,
God.
your lumpia's vegan? I'm not even gonna try that. It's like,
I honestly, I still have some family members like that. They're like, "Oh, I'm not hungry. I'm good." I'm like, "You literally just got here to dinner. You're definitely hungry." And then
Yeah.
they'll be eating 5 minutes later.
And for the
I,
listeners, lumpia is like a Filipino version of a Chinese egg roll. Deep
yeah.
fried. Usually there's like pork in it or vegetables and like carrots and cabbage and lettuce. So try the vegan option. And how would you, and I love how you guys check out Liz and Jasmine's takeover. They really recently did the turon, right guys?
yes, yes, yes,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
on my highlights on Instagram. You can check it
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different things, but Jasmine has a lot of recipes. Will you have like do you have like a holiday section of like your site, or how can people find like holiday recipes or just, special occasion recipes?
Yeah, we have a lot of recipes on our site for the holidays specifically, and
Hmm.
we have a search bar, and I'm hoping that one day someone can search for anything that they want, and we'll have it on our website. So we're working on that.
Hell yeah.
But we do have a lot of holiday recipes if they just search Christmas or holidays or Thanksgiving. And then on our YouTube channel, we have a lot of videos regarding that as well. And then we have playlists that they can check out.
So cool.
Perfect. Yeah, so make something familiar for your family, whether that's like a vegan mac and cheese or whatever you guys usually eat. Just try to make a vegan version so that they can
Yeah.
enjoy that too.
Yeah. And
Could I?
any like sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to add something earlier to our conversation about going into the holidays, just advice that I could give.
Hmm.
Just something that I was really set on in my mind when I was struggling with my eating disorder is that every single piece of food like had such an effect on my body, and that I was going to spiral into this dark place, that sort of thing. But once I started going through recovery, and now that I'm recovered, I've realized that one day of eating doesn't have an effect on my body physically like I thought it would. And I think that's something we need to constantly remind ourselves of, because it will help the process of just eating be so much more comfortable. And also just reminding us that food is nourishment and our body needs food. And it's something that we need to appreciate as a benefit for our body instead of a negative for our body.
Preach, girl. It's amazing tips.
Hmm.
Thank
Love
you.
that. Um, so what are you looking forward to in the holidays? What are you looking forward to cooking? You and Chris.
Let's see. So I definitely am looking forward to pumpkin pie. I'm a sucker for pumpkin pie. Like
Yum.
ever since I was little, pumpkin pie loaded up with Cool Whip. Now it's Cocoa Whip. It's the best thing. It tastes exactly the same.
Yum.
I'm definitely excited to be making that. And then I'm actually going to see my mom. We're going to make a lot of vegan Filipino recipes.
Yeah.
And I'm just always excited to do that because it just hits home, you know? It's always so
Yes.
enjoyable.
Yeah, Jasmine's mom is so sweet. She's so cute, so sweet. I love her so much.
Yeah, she's the best.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. And are you trying to formulate any new recipes or anything that you're working on for the upcoming 6 months?
I haven't thought that far. More so the next 2 months, we're
Okay,
definitely coming
okay.
out with a lot of recipes for the holidays and a lot of desserts, a lot of treats, because I know that's really popular during the next 2 months. So we're definitely going to be coming out with a lot of that. We actually just released a pumpkin French toast today that I think is pretty good. I think people will love for the fall season.
Yum. We're gonna put that
Yum.
in the bio, in the description.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll put that in the description for sure.
But yeah, we're just focusing on a lot of holiday recipes right now that we're trying to get out as much as we can, because I know this is a very food focused part of the year. And for many different reasons, a lot of people want to make dishes to impress, you know, when it comes to vegan cooking. So we want to
Hmm.
be able to give people the best of the best so that they can serve it up, be like, that's vegan, you didn't even know. Like, that's the
Yeah.
best thing to do.
So cool.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So I wanted to ask you also, like, your community seems so like important to you, and your like as well as your your real life community and your online community. Like, I mean, how is it important to you? How much has it changed your life?
It's changed my life for the better, honestly. In terms of my real life community, it's just so important to have someone to talk to, and so important to have friends and family to just kind of disconnect with and be in the present moment with. With working online and on social media, I'm constantly go, 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 and always stuck in the digital world. So
Yeah. Are you guys constantly
um,
replying too?
Yeah, it's just a never ending. I feel like
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
always
yeah.
something to do.
Yeah.
Being with my friends and family, especially those who don't use social media or who don't work on social media, it's refreshing. It really helps me stay present and kind of just appreciate life. That's something that I forget to do, just stop and appreciate what is going on in my life, what I have, and the home we live in and that sort of thing. So they really help me stay grounded. And then in terms of our online community, I mean, we wouldn't be where we are if it wasn't for them, if it wasn't for their support, if it wasn't for them sharing our content, our recipes, and just being our cheerleaders, I guess, online. So
Yeah.
they're like our family, and I know I don't know them all personally. We
Yeah.
still have that connection with them, and it's really cool to be friends with people across the world, and
Yes.
yeah, to make connections that I wouldn't have made without social media, without the digital space. So it's
Yeah.
really cool.
We're all part of the global community.
Yes. Amazing. Well, yeah, that concludes today's episode. We really, really appreciate you sharing everything with us so honestly and just giving us all the tips that you could give us just to help someone out there that might be struggling and even some good vegan knowledge too.
Thank you so much for having me. I was really nervous going into this. I'm always nervous going into interviews and stuff because I'm not the best speaker and I'm a very nervous person, but it was fun.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And be sure to follow Jasmine and her boo, Chris.
Yes, at Sweet Simple Vegan on Instagram, and your website is the same, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Perfect. Any other little tidbits you want to leave our listeners before we go?
Um, I don't think so. I can't think
Okay.
of
All right,
anything right
guys.
now.
All right,
Well,
guys.
thank
Well,
you
then
guys so
much
much for
love.
listening. Thank you so much for
Thanks.
listening to Conscious Kitchen. Be sure to check out the next episode and drop us a review, guys. Like, be part of our global community and just drop us a review. We appreciate that. All right. Take care, guys. Thanks, Jasmine.
See you
Thank
guys
you.
next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye.